friends, welcome to a little bit of a different video. This is for Finn Dane. He or she, Finn requested a short tutorial video on modding Take on Mars. Now, I will start off with the caveat that I am not a marvelous modder by any means, but I understand programming. And that's all you really need in order to figure out how to do some things, as long as they're fairly straightforward, for Take on Mars. Now, the folks at Take On, the actual Take On channel and their videos actually has a mod maker's tutorial series where they explain what their files are, where you can find things. That's the first step in the game. But what you'll do to start off with, we're going to do some very basic, very simple modding. So we're going to take a look at our Steam library. I'll pull it over here to our screen. Okay, so here is our Steam library. Take on Mars, right there. So what you do is you're going to go ahead and launch it. And when you launch it, you're going to be given an option here. You have play Take on Mars. You got play Take on Mars in developer mode, which lets you use the scenario editor and stuff like that. Which they have a scenario editor built in. And then Open Launcher. So Open Launcher, this is the first thing you're going to do when you want to start modding. So you'll play the launcher, which basically just launches this little application. So it shows any kind of, you can see I've been playing and tweaking. I have a mod called Power Up as well. This Easy Mining is my mod. Power Up is a mod that improves the efficiency of your solar panels and your thermal power coupler dually bobber. So anyway, Easy Mining, I've got that installed, and you can view the data. It'll open the folder where your mod is, and under the developer tab, you've got extract game data. So what you do is you'll click this folder. It's going to ask you to where do you want to output the folder. So I went ahead and I pre-did that because it takes a few moments. So I've got right here my Take on Mars mining folder. Now they have a manual for the workbench, which is editing tools for building the world. You can create your own scenarios and whatnot. How to do that. You've got a modder's manual, which talks about not modding these files per se, but this is more using the workbench and stuff, and the modeler's manual for modeling dilly bobbers. So we're going to close that off. That's all we need from that. So we would extract the data. So now we've got all this data. So this is all the things that can be edited in the game. And now Take on Mars is built from the ground up so that you can completely change the game itself. You can build pretty much any kind of game you want to in it. You can put your own models in. You can build all your own logic. You can overwrite all the things. So let me go ahead and minimize that. So what you need to do is you need to find the things that you need to modify. Now, I stuck to the resources. The extractors is what I started off with. So the extractors are found in scripts. This takes you a little bit to get there. Scripts, and then entities, pardon, and then controllers, and then Take Me to Mars, and then building blocks. So this is all of where that is. Now, there are other things on here, and you can explore at your leisure. Remember, you can always restore back the game. So building blocks, these are all the things that you can place and do stuff with. And then inside of here, there are my, pardon, scripts. And I'll look at it this way. So scripts, this is edited down. So all you need is the actual folders you need when you're modifying. So you don't need all the other stuff. Building blocks. Oh, it's right here. So here are all the controller C# scripts that run everything. So we've got the 3D printer, 3D printer filters, fill configs, constants, atmosphere processor, large and small, refineries, resource barrels, resource tank, topsoil extractor. So you'll have some things like this. So we've got machine topsoil extractor and machine topsoil extractor small. These are the same. They basically include this base machine topsoil. So these define like the size and number of barrel slots they've got, etc., and power requirements. But this one would then have all of the actual code for the base topsoil extractor. So what I did, because I'm interested in the topsoil extractor, the refinery, and the drilling. Now the atmosphere processor, I just put it over here and did a little new mod with it, just to see. Oops, sorry, the refinery, just to see how that worked as well. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the refinery itself. But so we've got the atmospheric processor, the drilling rig, and the topsoil extractor. Now these three items are what gathers your resources for you. So, like I mentioned in the actual series, the way resources work in Take on Mars is each grid sector in the game has its own resource pool that you can extract from, topsoil and rock, for example. And as you mine with the resource processors, you extract those materials from that resource pool until you deplete it and you can't extract any more resources. And that is, I mean, it's great from a gameplay mechanic, but it can make the game very slow. So what I did is I basically removed that so it no longer takes from the pool, and then I upped the amount that it gathers on each cycle. So how do we do that? So we are going to let's start off and say we're going to create a new mod. So let me launch the game and show you how we would do that. All right, so we're in the game itself, and under the add-ons directory, this is where you could create a new add-on or modify one. So if you pick one, then you can show the folder and that'll open it up for you. So if you wanted to create a new add-on, you would hit create new add-on. You give it a name. There's add-ons, there's mods, total conversions. Now these are set up as mods. Okay. So I'm modifying some existing behavior. I'm not adding additional content. I'm not doing a complete conversion. I give it a title. I can give it my name. I can depend upon another mod. So I can have mods that require other mods. All right, and then I would create that. It would create a folder for me. So we're going to just open up this folder. So we'll show that folder. So now we've got our easy mining folder. I have 2 copies of it here. Close that back down. We've already drilled down here to the proper locations. That was under scripts, entities, controllers, take me to Mars, building blocks. There's my files. All right. Oops. Close that up. Okay. So here we are. Now, how do we actually modify the game? Let's take a look at the atmospheric processor. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to edit this in Notepad++. It's my text editor of favor. And you need to have at least some understanding of programming. It really will help you. Otherwise, you're going to have to spend a lot of time poking and prodding. You can figure it out, though. So each thing is defined as a class. So these are called from the core game loop to do things. And there are, so this is a class. I'm not going to get into all that, but it extends a base class. So this basically gets some additional behavior from this class here. You get some variables that are defined up here on top. And then you've got methods inside the class that do different things, like clear pooled resources, get viable resources, is slot distance based, on dynamic ground, on static ground, initialize the controller. So what I did is I looked through here and I'm looking for what would be processing or gathering resources. So I just kind of looked through this, Okay, exiting, return map, add a map, get map icons. No, 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 no. So pretty much it's got to be here in this function or method called the on perform. I guess that's, I would say it's called perform. So this is basically looking and seeing, okay, am I on a dynamic platform? So basically, did you set it up on a platform rather than on the ground? Or is the resources in that location less than or equal to 0? If so, then return back and don't do anything. If it's not built, then don't process. So basically, look through all these things. Now, I was looking for, here's some sound stuff, here's some particle effects. Here is looking for a particle effect to emit. Here's some sound being done. All right, so here we go. If we're not processing, it would have skipped out of this function at this point. Now, looking for my position, getting the sector where we are. So this is where it's getting the resources in this sector. So it's going to look through here. So it's going to say, okay, for each resource in this location, get that resource. If the resource is not atmospheric, then basically skip out. Don't worry about it. If it is an atmospheric resource, then we're going to go ahead and add this into our gather pool. So this is where it gets the resources. Okay, it's getting these resource amounts at a certain time. F time, it basically is a loop time as it's looping through it. This amount per second, extraction scale, some other functions they've got written here, gathering efficiency, that kind of stuff. Then it's going to add into the resource gather pool that amount of resources. Okay, if the delay is too little, it's going to return. But nope, we're all good. Some debug stuff. Okay, so now it's like, okay, we've got the resources out of the area. It's going to see, do we have resource barrels? We do have resource barrels. Yay! So now they have a comment in here, get list of barrels currently plugged into the machine that still have space. So it's going to look through, the owner is the resource thing, number of slots, loop through each one. It's going to look and see, is there space? If the amount of stuff in the barrel is less than or is more than the stored amount, then it's going to skip out. Otherwise, okay, here we go. Here are the barrels that can hold stuff. So these barrels can hold things. Then it's going to go through the resources in that area. And here's where it's going to stick the resources into barrels. We're going to find barrels that already had the resource and try and fill them up. So it's going to try and put the same resource in the same bucket. And so here we go. Add the resource to the resource slot, return how much is left. So current gotten resource amount is, we're going to add some resources to that thing. It's going to tell us if we're good or not. Fill some more barrels. Now, here are these two functions right here. Delete the resources from these sectors. So what I did is I just put 2 slashes in front of it, just commented it out. So it does all the other stuff, but then it just doesn't take the resources from the sector. That makes sense? So that's the big key right there. Those 2 lines, ones that actually pull the content out of the resources, boom, done. You're done. Now, if you wanted to add more resources to the barrels as they're going, you could do things like, let's see, let's fill. So current gotten amount resource is how much we're working with. So at any point in here, like right there, I fixed the amount at 50. So every cycle through I set the amount to 50. So up here, I was doing all these calculations. I'm not going to override them. I don't care about it. All I care about is I want 50 on each cycle. So each time the process loops through to gather resources, it has 50. I just set that value right there. And then I don't extract anything from the actual sector itself. I hope that makes sense. Now you could tweak things and change, like you could add a factor in here so that it wasn't 50, it was like, times 2. You could just do something like, cur gotten, resource amount equals cur gotten, times 2, something like that. So you just get twice as much resources, or if you want to make it harder on yourself, you get, half as much resources, etc. But I just want a set value of 50. Easy cheesy, makes lemon squeezy. All right, so I'm just going to save this and close it. Now there's another one that I wanted to do, and this one I'll show you in the game. You've already seen me the benefit of that in the game, my current series, but for the refinery itself, I wanted to be able to, this is just the test I was doing, I wanted the refinery process to go faster, okay? So it takes a while for it to gather up the resources. So under refinery, which I have opened already, same kind of thing. I looked through all the code. There's only 1,100 lines here. It's not too bad. Event handlers, mouse enters, clicks, refinery controllers, chemistry reagents. It's basically trying to find the right recipes, making sure the right number of barrels are in there for the input and output side. If you can refine, then set up the barrels themselves and rattle them, and maps and event handlers for buttons being clicked, and then the actual refinery controller. And again, I'm scrolling through this, but you have to look through it until you find the stuff you want to be able to modify. Now, I looked down here around 1100. So the actual refinery controller calculate the reactions. So this is the function that calculates the reactions of the process, and it basically makes sure that you've got enabled input barrels and output barrels. And if you can refine it, and then it does the chemical reaction. All right. So what I did as an experiment is right here, modded by me, the process amount buildup. Okay. Is the time. So each cycle, each tick through the process takes some certain number of microseconds, milliseconds. And then it's the chemical reaction amount per second. Okay, so let's say that maybe it's in the formula for that reaction for converting the Mars atmosphere to water and oxygen and hydrogen and whatnot. It's 1 unit per 10 seconds. That's that chemical reaction amount per second. Times the refinery refine speed. So this is how fast the refinery can do. This is some parameters that are some constants that are set up in some of the scripts. So this is how much is built up. This doesn't give you free resources. This is just how fast it builds up. I stuck this on there, times 1,000. So basically, it still extracts the same amount of resources, still takes the same to do it, but what it does is it builds up 1,000 of it. So what? And this is just the test. I'm not going to play it like that, but how does this look in game? Let's take a look. All right, so here we are standing in front of one of my refineries, and I'm gonna try not to show you guys too much of what else is going on in the game. So here we go. We've got Mars atmosphere in one bucket, and it's being output to these things. We're using Mars atmosphere 2. So these are 16 carbon dioxide, 2 nitrogen, 2 argon, 2 water, and oxygen. I've got an empty carbon dioxide barrel in there right now. So watch what happens. I click process materials. Oops, ran out of Mars atmosphere already. So I'll grab this, jam it over there, grab you, jam you over here. But you saw how fast that processed. Now again, these are going to do every cycle. They're going to do 50. The cycle on the atmosphere process was pretty fast. Grab you guys, and grab you. Okay, so again, we'll click this. Boom. They see that? So that's 1,000 times speed on that mod. Now, let me save and get out of here. Now, in the add-ons, it's a little funky when you load add-ons. Let's quit the menu. Yes, thank you. So after you add your add-on, you got to enable it, and it requires you to start the game again a couple of times. So each time you disable and enable an add-on, it'll go back and forth. Now, if you wanted to share your mod, you've got to pack it, and then you can send it to Steam once it was packed. And if you want to modify an existing mod, so there are mods on the Steam Workshop, and you can download them, and then you could copy and unpack, and you could make your own version of it. You'd want to just give credit, but you could copy it, unpack it, and modify different things to it. Delete these guys now. Don't need those anymore. So easy mining, enabled, not packed, so they're still working on it. I'm going to go back in right now before I forget about it, and I'm going to set this to 50 times speed as well, just so I can get my resources gathered up a little faster. This build is taking forever. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you've got questions, I can try and help you a little bit. I am not a modder by any stretch of the imagination. I can just sing the tune a little bit here with following the code. But basically, this comes down to you got to follow it through, find where things are happening, experiment. Worst comes to worst, just turn the mod off. But make sure you don't do it on your main game, otherwise you could have problems. So if you enjoyed this video, click that like button. If you have questions, put them in the comments. I'll try my best to answer them, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.